the original Season 3, Episode 3, I'll See You in Hell or New Orleans. Now, for me, this, I think, was the episode that I've kind of been waiting for because it had a lot of flashbacks to it. We got to see a lot of really amazing stuff that kind of blew my mind. I wasn't even thinking about it at all during this first episode or during, the first flashback or anything like that. But this takes place before there are any other vampires, and I hadn't even remotely considered that before. And that is what I loved about the end. That wasn't the only thing that I loved about the flashbacks, but that was definitely my favorite part because we got to see the very first non-original vampire that was ever created. And that was pretty awesome. I thought that is really freaking sweet. That was a great idea for them to put into this series. And it's Lucian, and he's still alive, so are both Aurora and Tristan. So they're like the first three non-original vampires, and I just find that really amazing. I think that's so freaking cool. And they are they're seriously the direct descendants to the originals, and they haven't been killed off after all this time. And we see Tristan in this episode. He does get to New Orleans, and he is sire to Elijah, so we officially get that he is Elijah's sire. So we have Klaus and Lucian, Elijah and Tristan, and we still don't really know exactly who Aurora was sired to. It's either going to end up being Rebecca, or I think both Aurora and Tristan could possibly be sired to Elijah, because of course Elijah's the family one, like we have to stick together style thing. And I feel like he'd be the type of person, for whatever reason, one of them, either Tristan or Aurora got turned first. And I would think it would be Tristan, maybe by accident or something. And then Elijah would possibly have saved Aurora for the same reason. Like, I don't know what would happen if I lost my family, and I've already lost my mother as well as my father, basically. So I'm going to save, your sister so that you can both be together since the rest of your family is gone. At least you have each other. So I could easily see that happening from Elijah's side of things, but we'll have to see exactly who Aurora is sired to. But we get the flashback of Klaus just screwing over Lucian, which I thought was really messed up. Because of course he mentioned she's very cute and stuff like that when he first sees her. But they mentioned in the episode, Lucian's like, we broke up centuries ago. So I was like, okay, so that nothing ever really happened between Klaus and Aurora, because Lucian ended up with her. So they did end up together, and they both got turned. And then that was it. And then in this episode, it's like, nope, he totally lied to Lucian, she wouldn't accept the note. And we were actually doing each other, and then he gets busted. And Lucian is just emotionally destroyed by that. And he doesn't even care that he's dealing with the vampire. It's like his heart was broken, and it did not matter to him whatsoever. He was just pissed off and was like, I want to hurt you in some way. After he'd gone through all the insane torture. So he was emotionally broken down. And then he got physically whipped, and he got the cuts across his mouth, which we found out why that was happening in this episode to all those different bodies, which we also find out he's not actually the person doing that. He is still the one that hired the company to take out the wolves, which means that he is at least somewhat actively going against Elijah's sire line, but he isn't the one that's randomly killing people. That was done by Tristan, and I'm assuming the woman Aya, who's introduced in this episode. So, they were kind of doing that so that he would be detained and so that he would be killed off. And then we find out that that can't happen because there is some insane weapon that can kill off the originals. Tristan doesn't know where it is. Aurora doesn't have it, so they assume Lucian has it. I don't know if he does or if he doesn't, but he is the person who somehow had a cure to the werewolf venom, which was a bit more than that because it's a hybrid bite. So I don't know if that counts as the same thing, and I guess it does. If it's a hybrid bite, it's still just the werewolf venom that's destroying them. So that was interesting. That's definitely something. So there's this weapon out there. If Aurora is tied to Elijah, there might be another member that we still haven't seen who is tied to Rebecca that might be just as important. And that person could have the weapon and might want to destroy both Elijah and Klaus. So there's a lot of mysteries. Mysteries abound. They talk a lot about the prophecy that Freya told them in the last episode, where the one by friend, one by family, one by foe. They have a bunch of people that lie in multiple camps. They even talk about Lucian being both friend and foe because of his past. Though we find out, basically, once he became a vampire, he was like, I'm over it, man. I'm like, I got super strength. I can eat people. I'm like super powerful. He didn't give a crap. He became something beyond, human. He was instantly over that junk, which is kind of funny to me because I don't think I've ever seen that happen, where someone gets turned and they're just like, sweet. And for him, that's exactly what it was. He was emotionally torn down. He was literally tortured. Had his like mouth cut wide open and stuff like that. So he was all messed up. And then just that little nick of blood after he stabs Klaus, and then he ends up cutting himself and it completely heals him. So that was an awesome moment, because when Klaus first said that, I was like, why is he saying it that way? And I didn't even think about it until he came back, until Lucian actually came back to life. And then I was like, oh, that's why he sounded so confused, because this is the first vampire that was ever created that wasn't an original. And that didn't dawn on me when he first got healed. I was like, well, yeah, like, obviously, like, why is he so confused by that? I thought it was because it was a tiny bit of blood and not like a bunch of blood, which still surprised me. I thought it did have to be more than like the tiny bit that was on the knife, but apparently once you get a little bit, you're good to go. So that tiny bit of blood was in his system. He was like, sweet, I'm like you. And then he runs out and he's going to kill Tristan. And he just gets stabbed straight through the heart. And then the guy stabs him like right in the head, I guess, when he's already on the ground. So he rises, of course, like he says, like the Phoenix. He's about to get torched. And then, boom, he pops up and we have our first non-original vampire. So that was really awesome. I love getting that. It's something I never even remotely thought of, to be completely honest. It's like, it's the originals, and then they led to other vampires. That's all I've ever really considered. I've never thought about the fact that these are the first ever vampires. Of course, Klaus is like the first ever hybrid, so it's just like, no big deal. It's just, they're vampires, they breed people. That's pretty much it. They feed on people and they turn. I'm trying to remember the continuity of everything, because the series is so old now with the Vampire Diaries lore, obviously added onto this. But I could have sworn that if Klaus turned someone, they became a hybrid. But that could have been something very specific. So maybe they had to be a werewolf already, and then he had to bite them, and that would make them a hybrid, and it wasn't the other way around. Like, if they were just human, they will only become vampire, but if they were already werewolf, that would turn them into a hybrid. So that has to be the case, I'm assuming, because Lucian is just a normal vampire. So that was pretty cool. But I love that reveal. Aurora, at the end, decides, you know what, screw this. I'm coming to New Orleans, so now we have her coming back in. And clearly she's the crazy one. If Tristan is like, you know what, I have to, inject you with something so you pass out, and I'm going to keep you up in the mountains and stuff. So clearly she's the unstable one of this trio of, really early vampires. So I'm looking forward to her coming in, because I think that's just going to be chaos. It's not going to be all these cunning ideas and schemes and stuff. It's just going to be her. We really don't know exactly what the relationship is with, her character as far as how she feels about anybody else, because we still don't even know how Tristan and Aurora got turned. We know that Tristan, at least, was officially, in this episode, was turned by Elijah, but we still haven't seen that. We still don't know why. We know that Tristan in the past knew that they were vampires because, of course, Cole was screwing up and just eating people left and right, which is really funny because I think it was early on, it was like the first flashback of the episode, Lucian was like, you guys are going to have to leave because Cole is just like eating everybody, and he's not exactly being coy about it. And then, of course, the last flashback, or like the one before last, is like, I know what you are, because Cole screwed up, as usual. So I thought that was kind of funny. Like, Cole has just always been Cole. He's always just the brash one, just the brash young kid. And he just eats people and just no regard, screws up all the time. Somebody's eating there, somebody's eating there. I guess they would know that they could compel people. I don't think they had that ability or knew that they had that ability at the time. So I guess that kind of made sense. Like why this random woman would still know, because I was thinking like, why wouldn't he compel her? But they didn't even know that they could heal people. They just ate people and then move along. So in this episode alone, they found out they could heal people, and that if they died with their blood in their system, they would create others like them. And I really can't wait to get more flashbacks, because I want to see every one of the originals react to this, first non-original vampire. Like, we can make others like us, and that's how that starts. That has to be the chain reaction, because all they wanted was family. And so it's like now they have, basically like Lucian said, we're kind of like brothers now compared to just friends. We're more like brothers. So they would have that mentality, like, we've been on the run for so long and it's just been us. We cannot create our own family, and then that creates vampires across the entire planet, which is just really awesome. And it makes sense how that would start, because that's always been those characters. The originals have always been the family clique. And so I can't wait to see that get expanded in the next episode through those flashbacks and however all that insanity plays out. But I definitely loved it in this episode. Just getting to see the Lucian as the first ever non-original vampire really surprised me. I was like, that is actually, like I said, all this time, never even remotely crossed my mind. Like, who is the first person to ever become just a normal vampire? And I was like, huh, that got answered. And I never realized it was a question I even had. So that was very amazing. It was like Klaus's first son. So that was very interesting. Excuse me. So I love that for sure. The present day stuff was definitely interesting as well. We had, like I said, Ava. I keep forgetting. I'm pretty sure it's Ava. She comes in, beats up Marcel and all of his people. We actually get to see Josh, and I was wondering if he was even in this show anymore, because he hasn't been in the past couple episodes. So I was like, is Josh still in the show? I couldn't remember like if he took off after his boyfriend died in the last season. So I was like, I can't remember if that happened or not. But fortunately, Josh is still there, so Marcel still has somebody else that he can talk to, because no one else is important. We lost Gia in the last season, so it's like Marcel and Josh are like the only two vampires that aren't originals or Lucian, that, or I guess Tristan and Aurora now, that we care about. So it's like Marcel had, he kind of still has Davina, but she can't really be in touch with him too much. So it's good that he still has Josh. We get the jokes and stuff from him. But it was nice getting to see him in this episode. We had, we were finding out that Ava was sired by Elijah. We find out that there's this whole vampire group. I believe they're called the Sticks or something like that. They have these super awesome cards that apparently like melt if you put them in blood, which I thought was a really sweet concept. And they want to recruit Marcel, so that's kind of cool. And we find out that this woman is like, I think she said she was like 2 centuries or 3 centuries older than Marcel, but he still held his own, which just made Marcel a little bit cooler, but she was still pretty awesome. And then, of course, she came up against Elijah, and he was just like, boom, and he just dug his hand straight in her body. That was a pretty cool scene, and it was just like, he just wasn't messing around. It was just like, boom, and I'm done with this crap, but he let her live. And then him dismissing Marcel is kind of what has Marcel thinking, like, do I want to side with Elijah right now, or do I want to side with the Sticks? Which either way, it's technically the same thing, because they're sire to Elijah, so it's ultimately the same. Like, he doesn't really know exactly about the war right now, but I'm sure no matter what he chooses, which will probably be the Sticks, he'll realize I'm still basically just working with Elijah because I'm trying to fight this war. And it'll be interesting for him, because he'll of course be sire to Klaus, but if he joins them, he'll be working on the side of Elijah's sire line, which is trying to take out Klaus, or at least protect Elijah. We still don't technically know if the other sire lines are trying to kill the other originals. Like Lucian and Tristan, sure, they might be trying to kill each other, but we still don't technically know if they're really trying to do the whole kill off the original so that we can wipe out that entire sire line. And if we find out that Tristan and Aurora are linked to 2 separate originals, meaning Elijah and Klaus, and it could also be Rebecca, if it's Tristan to Elijah and then Aurora to Klaus, then of course we know that Tristan in no way is going to try to kill Klaus. So we know that for sure if that ends up being the reveal. But we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. So I'm looking forward to that. Getting in the backstory in general, of course, all of that was good. Seeing it from both sides, from Lucian's side as well as Klaus's side, pretty entertaining. And like sort of at the end, it was Klaus's first sort of leap into just killing off a bunch of people because he had someone that wanted to indulge with him that wasn't Cole. Like him and Cole, they mentioned that I think in the last season they definitely had their moments because there would be times where Klaus, of course, just goes on like a killing spree, and Cole is always the one. So I can easily see some flashbacks, this season being Cole, Lucian, and Klaus just wiping out states and countries, like whole countries, just the three of them. So not sure if we'll get that, but interested to see how that plays out with 3 wild cards in this little family. So that was pretty cool. Freya got, the same information, like we find out that Lucian's innocent. So she and Vincent are now back to square one trying to figure out who is it that's doing these crazy murders. It could be Tristan. It could be Ava or whatever member of the Sticks. We still don't technically know, but they do kind of introduce it like, well, it's not Lucian. And he's like, it's got to be Tristan. So eyes are definitely on him, but at the same time, neither of them seem like they were in the city whatsoever. But obviously you can tell anyone to do anything. We have cell phones, so you could just call somebody. So it could have still been his plan, Tristan's plan, to try to set Lucian up. But we don't really know officially. And like I said, there still could be another like 4th person that we still haven't freaking seen that's going to be involved in this sire line battle. But I certainly enjoyed this episode. I love the flashbacks. Like I said, getting the answer to a question I never really had was actually pretty amazing. Like, it kind of blew my mind just when I realized what was happening. I was like, holy crap, it clicked, and it was like, this is the first time they've ever created another vampire. And I can't wait to see, like I said, how Tristan and Aurora get turned. Aurora I can easily see because both Klaus and Lucian have feelings for her, so it could easily be both of them. But like I said, at the same time, it could have been Elijah for whatever random reason she's hurt or wounded, and she gets Elijah's blood, and that would kind of just help with sort of the crossover stuff. So we just have to wait and see. But I'm really looking forward to things. I'm hoping we get Rebecca back this season. I don't know what they're doing with her character because, of course, we don't have our normal Rebecca actress in the series too much. That's why she's in the flashbacks, which is great to see her. But we don't even have, like, the other woman from the last season. She's gone, too. So that was really weird. I was like, they got this woman because our original actress couldn't play Rebecca too much anymore. So she switched bodies, and then it's like, even in this season, we still haven't seen her. So I'm like, I hope she's in it, too, because, like I said, with the Josh thing, he just showed up this episode. So I'm really hoping that that's what happens with Rebecca's character, where she just pops up again. And it's like, okay, but for now it's like, they have this big war stuff going on, and there's zero contact. It's not like there's been no real mention of Rebecca or anything like that. They know it's the sire line war, and which means that there are 3 sire lines, but there's been like, I don't think anyone's even said Rebecca's name outside of the flashbacks. So I really hope we don't get like another actress to end up playing Rebecca. That would really suck because we've already gone through one transition, and I like the last actress as well. I like both the actresses, but it would be weird to have a 3rd actress in the 3rd season to play Rebecca again. But however it plays out, we're just gonna have to deal with it. And I'm sure if it is a new actress, I'm sure they'll pick someone who's good. But I'm looking forward to the next episode definitely, because I just can't wait to see what the heck Aurora's going to do. Because, of course, Tristan is already worried about it because he had her locked up with some monks. So he's going to be freaking out. I don't know how Lucian and Klaus are going to react. Like, Lucian, he's over the whole relationship thing. They ended up together anyway, so they broke up probably because of the whole her going crazy sort of deal. And maybe it was because she never turned off, just being the wild card. Like, maybe she doesn't have her humanity switch on. Maybe it's like that, and she just never turned it back on. She just has fun, goes crazy, does whatever. But it also seems like how they're playing it is that she's just actually a little crazy. Like, she's not just, her humanity's off. She's just actually a little crazy, because if that were the case, she would have killed those guys long before that. She wouldn't have done it at the end of this episode. She would have never been there. She would have wiped all those guys out as soon as she got there. Like, I'm bored, screw this. And she would have been gone. But either way, I'm looking forward to the next episode. But of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this one. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And what did you guys think about us getting Lucian as the very first non-original vampire? Because obviously, I loved it. Blew my mind. Never even remotely considered it. But I want to know if you guys ever had that question. Like, if that was something in your mind when the originals first came up. Like, who would be the first vampire that they created or something like that. I want to know your speculations, if you ever had any, that, or if you ever thought we'd even see this moment. I want to know what you guys think just in general about that, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.